reached out to Elon. So he starts asking me about Amber Heard for 2 hours. For 2 hours. I had to end the meeting finally. He just wanted to know what I knew about Amber Heard. Welcome to the Two Angry Men podcast. Mark, before we start, I should just explain. I am not in prison because I know it looks like it.
Well, I was going to say, it's really, it's our relationship has developed that in order to make me comfortable on Zoom, that you've now kind of checked yourself into some prison and decided that that's where I'm most comfortable talking to somebody.
No, I am out of town, and this was the best I could do. So, okay, let's talk. So this war now between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, it is just one of the most entertaining things I have seen in memory. But there are consequences here. So let's declare our positions. Who's the winner and who's the loser? If you have to pick a winner and a loser, who are you picking as the winner?
Oh, as of right now, clearly Donald Trump is the winner.
I'm picking Elon Musk.
Wow. Now, let me make the case for this first of all. And I will make a prediction towards the end of this is where I think we're going to end up.
Okay.
Why do I say Donald Trump is clearly the winner? All you have to do is look at what has happened with these tweets by Elon Musk. These tweets have gone from 0 to 100 faster than a Tesla Plaid. He started off with the big beautiful bill and all of it was a disgusting abomination. Next thing you know, he's got Trump on Epstein's island, and that's why the Epstein stuff isn't getting released. And then Bill Ackman weighs in, and all of a sudden he dials it back a little bit. He didn't even he got bitch slapped just a couple of times by the president, and it was almost like the ketamine wore off.
So before I get into why I think Elon is ultimately going to win this, why has Donald Trump been so tame in this? This is uncharacteristic that when people do way less, he does way more when he comes out. And I'm going to talk about this in a minute because I've got two stories, one about Donald Trump and one about Elon Musk that I have never talked about, but I'm gonna with you.
Okay.
And it's about revenge. It's about revenge. So why is Donald Trump so tame right now?
Because I think, and this, I wish I could say I had inside information. This is just from the outside looking in. It's my opinion based on everything around it. Donald Trump has talked famously about the trials and tribulations of his brother who died as a result of being an alcoholic. He credits the fact that addiction is why alcohol's never touched his lips. And I think that he had great admiration for his brother. He looked up to his brother. He thought his brother was handsome, had the world by the tail, and then was done in. I think there's an element to that here. And I think he's having fun with him, but he is not, to your point, I agree with you. He has not gone savage. His tweets are more playful than when somebody comes after him. And the boy, when you start saying the reason that the Epstein files haven't been released is because he's mentioned it. Well, by the way, we all know he was mentioning him. You can go onto the internet and Google the two of them. They were famously friends 20 years ago, and he also famously cut off Epstein, a number of years ago.
Okay. So number one, I don't think this is about empathy, but we'll get into that maybe later. I have a question for you. How does Donald Trump keep Republicans in line? How is it that he can corral the votes he needs within the Republican Party with people that don't necessarily agree with whatever his point of view happens to be? Well, what power does he have over them?
Did you see?
I'm getting to a point.
Okay. I'm going to answer it. We'll see if we disagree. Yesterday, I saw a series of interviews with senators. I think Tom Tillis was one. I think two others that were back to back. All of them were interesting in terms of what they were saying. I don't know if that was if we did a timeline as to when the insults came out, but they were amazingly in agreement with the contents of the criticism of the bill, the big beautiful bill. And
Okay.
they kind of played lip service to that because Elon has, to their mind, a point there, but they rapidly snap back with a little whiplash towards, not slamming the president in any way, shape, or form. Why is that? Because he's famously unleashed the primaries as a weapon.
Boom. And that's what I'm getting at. Primarying his opponents, primarying people in his party. Who has more money, Mark? Donald Trump or Elon Musk?
Oh, well, at this point, it's a exponential factor. If you were to take on, even with the latest coins and everything else, Donald Trump would probably be what, 1/100th, one
Yeah,
250th?
maybe 150th or something like that. Okay, so Elon Musk, my predicate here is going to be there is a revenge element that is magnetic for both of them, which we'll get into in a minute. If you accept that premise, Elon Musk has already spent $250,000 to get Trump elected this time around.
250 million.
250 million, I'm sorry. He spent 20 million in Wisconsin, so he is not slow to pour money into campaigns.
That was in a losing, so people know the Wisconsin was in the I don't know if it was Chief Justice.
It wasn't chief, it was a justice.
Race, and it was a losing effort.
He lost, but he poured money in. If money is the issue, which it was in terms of what Trump threatens, Elon can do that in spades. And Elon has said that he is, not afraid at all to try to boot people who don't share his point of view on things. So and because I've been reading about some of the congressmen and senators right now, particularly the representatives, who are really concerned because they know that this is not just a one-way street where Donald Trump says, I'll primary you if you don't vote for it. Elon Musk could say, I'll primary you if you do. And the amount of money that's going to go in on Elon's side is going to be way more than on the Trump side. And I don't know if you remember this, but there was a Speaker of the House, a Speaker of the Assembly in California, probably the most famous one of the most famous legislators in history. His name was Jesse Unruh, and he called.
I remember what's Jesse Unruh's most famous saying? If I
that
can't,
money is the mother's milk of politics.
No.
That's what.
Yes, he did say that, but he also said, if I can't drink their booze, eat their food, and fuck their women, and then vote against them, then I have no business being in Sacramento.
That's Jesse Unruh. But he did say money is the mother's milk of politics. And he's right. And Elon Musk has way more to spend than Donald Trump. So if these congressmen, and by the way, we're talking a razor thin majority the Republicans have. And if these congressmen and senators are looking at money, Elon Musk is at least as powerful as Donald Trump.
Except where does Elon get a lot of his money? Elon gets a lot of his money. SpaceX, Tesla. One of the reasons purportedly that the smart chatter is that he's so upset is that this big beautiful bill cuts off one of his greatest lifelines for Tesla and does extreme damage in terms of the government funding Tesla. If all of a sudden his SpaceX gets squeezed, Tesla gets squeezed, and his shareholders start coming after him. I'm telling you, the reason he blinked so quick, I don't think it was, I've heard people say, oh, was the ketamine wearing off? It was this or that. Well, that's, I guess, way above my pay grade. What I think is he quickly realized when Trump started getting a little bit savage and having fun with it, well, maybe we'll pull back billions and billions here.
He knew this was coming. If anything, he was surprised that Trump wasn't more savage. But Elon Musk knows what he's doing.
So what are his
If
Where's his
Tesla
big,
goes under, he's going to still have many, many, many billions of dollars, and you know that. And
right?
he can spend that, and he could shift the balance of power in Congress, and that's just a fact. So, in terms of power, I think Donald Trump needs Elon Musk more than Elon needs Donald Trump. I
Well,
really
there
do.
were a lot of people speculating, and I want to debunk this right now. That yesterday, didn't he tweet out also Elon Musk about impeachment? There should be an
Yeah,
impeachment. Let me just tell you. First of all, he's never going to get Trump impeached, yeah, out of the House, and it's never going to be convicted, just like Bill Clinton.
he's not, and that's not going to happen. I agree.
Yeah,
I mean,
never.
we know that. That's not going. That's just
So there were
bluster.
all these people speculating. Oh, this is a grand scheme
No, no,
by
no.
JD
No.
Vance.
You know why? You know
Well,
why? Because I read about this today. There's this whole conspiracy theory about these tech billionaires who, what, I mean, I don't know if this is true or not. Again, I'm just telling
okay,
you
this is the
what's out
theory
in
I'm
the,
talking about.
I'm
Sell it.
just telling you that the theory was that Donald Trump wanted Maria Bartiromo as his vice president, and wanted to nominate her, and the tech billionaires wanted Vance, and that there was this whole tech bro conspiracy to get Vance in and then to get Trump out. I'm not saying it's true, but it's this kind of wacko right-wing conspiracy theory that the tech billionaires wanted to put Vance in that role, and they say they got their way. And they got their way in return for giving money to Donald Trump and bending the knee. So
So I heard the tail end of that. Maria, I did not know. So thank you for.
I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying that's what's going around.
I heard the tail end yesterday, and I was laughing about it. That this was a grand conspiracy by the tech bros to install JD Vance in, and
Right,
that was
right.
why they thought Elon. I just think that's naive and fanciful, and I would check somebody's competency who thinks that.
Okay. So let me just throw out a couple of other things. Number one, the United States desperately needs SpaceX because it's the only way we can get people to the International Space Station right now, and all sorts of other reasons. But SpaceX is way ahead of everybody, and NASA is dependent on it. So Elon has some leverage there. He put a poll up on Twitter a couple days ago, asking people if they would support him if he created an independent party on X. 80% of the people said yes. People are not happy with either party right now. And 80% of the people said yes. Again, if Elon Musk in any way aligns himself with MAGA or conservative Republicans, all you need is this much of a shift and the Republicans lose. And Elon Musk could do that if he wanted. So, in terms of his power, he doesn't need 51%, he needs about 7%. And if he had the gumption of doing it and did it, that could shift everything. Everything. It could be the
So,
Democrats' biggest payday.
so this is interesting to me. One of the advantages of being two old, angry men, and I know it's two angry men, but I like to say old, we remember Ross Perot.
Of
And
course.
one of the consequences of Ross Perot was Ross Perot helped create Bill Clinton, because Bill Clinton, people forget, did not win on a majority vote, won on a plurality because of Ross Perot. And there was a point when Ross Perot was knocking on the door of 20% for the party that he had kind of become the standard bearer for. So is that what you're thinking? Is that same
Yeah,
analysis?
that's exactly what I'm thinking. The only difference is that Ross Perot was just a very rich man who connected with people, sort of like Pete Buttigieg did on the other side, that he just connected with a lot of people. But Elon Musk is a famous man. He's as famous as Donald Trump now. So he walks in with, everybody knows who he is, everybody knows what he stands for. And if he can marshal, 10% of the vote, which is a lot, everything would change. I mean, everything. He doesn't need 10, but everything would change because he'd be drawing that from Republicans, whether they're
Oh,
moderate,
that's
conservative,
fascinating.
or
So,
MAGA.
so now you're convincing me that he could end up. I'm going to I'm going to see, he could end up winning, but it might not be a zero sum. It could be he wins, Trump wins, and it depends on what you say. Where does he take his 10%? He's got who's the demographic for Elon Musk?
There are probably conservative and slash MAGA Republicans who might not like. Look, you go out and try to buy a car right now, if it's not an American car, and you're going to feel it immediately because these car dealers don't have the inventory. They don't even know how to price it because so many of these, there's no inventory, and these cars are either on boats or they're in foreign countries. And they don't know if you want to make a deal to buy a car right now, they can't give you a price because they don't know if there's going to be a tariff, if there is a tariff, what the percentage is, who's going to eat it, is the manufacturer going to eat it, is the consumer going to eat it. So these guys are just kind of floating out there, and people are going to get pissed off because of these tariffs, not to mention this big, beautiful bill. But the tariffs, go out and try to buy a foreign car right now, and it's unbelievable. And I mean, all these car salesmen, I don't know how they're making a living because they can't sell anything. You can't put a price on a piece of paper right now. So everybody's going to start feeling this. So I think there's going to be a chunk of MAGA people who are, and that's just cars. There are going to be a chunk of MAGA people who are going to be really upset about this. Go buy a phone, Seriously.
Well, we're not that far away from when Elon was lionized. When I say temporally, we're greatly far away from an ideological kind of shift, but temporally from when he was lionized on the left, when you couldn't drive through Southern California and you would see a Tesla on every corner. And there are still a lot of people who admire Elon greatly. So I can see 5% drainage, if you will, from the Democratic Party, 5% from the Republican Party. And to be honest, I had not thought about the idea, even though he tweeted, of running through. He doesn't need to primary people as much as create a party with a viable third party, which would really shake things up.
I mean, there are two different paths, and both of them could be really effective. But remember, I mean, when you look at Trump winning, Trump losing in 2020, he lost by 44,000 votes. I mean, that was it. And when you look at the margins this time
look
around,
at the margins,
wasn't that much different.
Look at the margins in 2016.
Right. I mean, and so if Elon Musk marshals that going either route, I think he's got way more power than everybody's dismissing him as crazy right now. So you want to hear my revenge stories?
Yes, I do, actually.
Okay.
You've got my attention and you've moved me, even though I haven't come off of my position, but I'm coming closer to yours.
You know how honored I feel about that, don't you? Because that never happens with you and me.
I'm recognizing you. I think it's a brilliant analysis. Tell me. So
Okay.
Revenge story.
Okay. So the reason I'm raising this is because I do think there's a revenge element here, that Elon feels disrespected and is pissed off clearly. And Elon gravitates to revenge. So does Donald Trump. So which do you want to hear first, my Trump story or my Elon story?
Elon story first.
Okay. So in 2017, I believe it was May, I did a show called Objectified, where I interviewed famous people about their lives using objects to kind of take me through periods of their life that they saved. I reached out to Elon to see if he would do it. And I was kind of shocked because I thought this is going to be really difficult. And his assistant said, come on over to SpaceX and meet him. And so I went over to SpaceX and I sat down in his office and talked to him for a while. And he told me some great stories. He had a pair of dice there. And he told me that when he was launching rockets at the beginning, they all blew up. And then somebody had given him a pair of dice. And that pair, when he took the pair of dice into the control room, and that launch was successful. So he said every time thereafter, he always brought those dice in. Then he walked me around SpaceX. It was really cool. And said he would do it like in 3 weeks. And I was stunned it was that easy. So went back to my office, and a couple of days later, I get a call saying, Elon would like you to come over to SpaceX to have lunch with him. And I said, sure. And I thought we were going to talk about Objectified and how we're going to do it and everything. So this was right around the time that Elon had just broken up. I should say Amber Heard had just broken up with Elon. And I knew he was upset about it. So we sat down, and I stupidly thought, okay, we're going to talk about Objectify. And we go in the cafeteria, Mark. We're in the SpaceX cafeteria. There are people all around. I mean, a lot of people. And we're in the middle.
Still in LA?
LA? In Hawthorne.
Yeah, Hawthorne. I was going to say down in the South Bay.
Yeah. And there's a big cafeteria filled with people. And we're like kind of in the middle. And I started asking about He couldn't care less about Objectify. So he starts asking me about Amber Heard. Like, what do you know about Amber Heard? For 2 hours. For 2 hours. I had to end the meeting finally. He just wanted to know what I knew about Amber Heard.
Well, if I remember correctly, when he was seeing her, she was with Johnny back at that point. And he had a place down at the Eastern in downtown LA. And they used to tell me, because I had friends that were living in the Eastern, that he would drive in when Johnny was out of town and then exit. And didn't TMZ cover that?
We're not saying one way or the other. We weren't there. I've heard the stories, not validating them, but yeah, they went around. We don't know what the time frame was, but he was definitely dating her. Okay, so he kept saying, what do you know? What do you know? And I'm like, whatever we know, we have put on the website, in terms of the breakup, or, she was dating some guy, and it was in some other country, I believe. And, he just wanted to know. And so a couple of days later, I'm at home and my cell phone rings, and it's Elon. And he was furious, screaming and swearing at me, saying, you lied to me. I know you know things that you didn't tell me, and just went just crazy on me. Hung up, and that was it. Never did the show. Haven't spoken to him again. A couple of years later, I actually tried reaching out, never responded. But just the fact.
Why do people always want to yell at you?
Well, they don't, Mark. It's you and a couple of other people. But he was so mad.
Within the last, we're not going to mention names, but within the last month, I've had to play mediator or marriage counselor with you and another mutual friend of ours.
Who was right?
I'm not going to judge. Don't ask.
You can judge.
No, I'm not going to judge. But you got an apology, didn't you? Did you get
your friend? Okay, Okay,
what's the other revenge story?
So wait a minute. So my point is just that he wanted to know about Amber Heard, and it was like,
and he's cut you off. Never talked to him since.
Right, but it's not about me. It's about that he was so determined to find out something, and why, right?
Okay.
So Donald Trump. I actually did the pilot of Objectified with Donald Trump. And actually, it's interesting. So we did the pilot. I had asked Trump and I asked Hillary if they would each do one. And we thought we'd do that and air both of them. She said no. He said yes. And I figured if I shot it with Donald Trump, then Hillary might say yes. And I shot it with him. Turned out, then I went back to Hillary and they still said no. So we thought we weren't ever going to air it because we thought Hillary was going to win. So it never aired during the campaign because it wouldn't have been fair. And then on election night, I get a call from one of the execs saying, I guess we got a show now because he's going to be the president. So we ended up airing it. So when we were shooting it, I think it was September 2016, a former beauty queen pageant had tweeted something negative about him. And he came up to me because it was in between the portions of the shoot. And he was pissed. And he was saying, I'm going to tweet something about, she gained 20 pounds. And I remember just looking at him and saying, really? That's a terrible thing. You shouldn't do that. And, but he wanted to. And that was his instinct. And he didn't do it, but as far as I know, but he wanted to immediately go for that. So both of them have elements of revenge. And if Elon has that, he can use his money, use the ability to even start an independent party, and he can completely upend the Republicans. I mean, that's the way I see it.
Okay, so I will readily admit you've moved me with the independent party. I can see that. I think that we're at, the 90s are calling, and that could be a revamp of the 90s. But on the element of revenge, I always think, to borrow Adam Carolla's line, there's fuck you money and there's fuck me money. And fuck me money is a whole new level where there is no point to it, but you want to seek revenge. So I get it. I get
Yeah, it's really funny because I don't know, you're talking about fuck you money. I'm reading a book with the best title, and it's a fabulous book. You know what it's called?
What?
It's called The Haves and Have Yachts. And it's about all these, Bezoses and oligarchs that have these, they call them giga yachts. Those are the biggest ones, like 500 feet long. And just the culture and what goes into all of that. And it's just fascinating. But they relish in that fuck you money. And Elon has that money. And Elon can spend it. And if he has that element of revenge, feels like he was humiliated, realizes that Doge is going to become undone. They're already starting to undo it. And then feels that Trump used him, and then looks at the Tesla stock and everything else. I don't think he's going to be kumbaya about that.
Well, I like I said, I still will take Trump in this battle, but Elon may, in the long run, have the last laugh. So that's where you've moved me to.
Okay, well, I will take that as a huge victory.
Yeah, it is. You moved me.
I moved Mark Geragos.
Yeah. And by the way, I may just parole you from whatever prison you're sitting in.
Speaking of, what's going on with the Menendez brothers? Why was this thing moved to later in the summer? I thought they want to get out now.
No, they did, but when the day after they were resentenced, the governor said, I'm now going to convert the clemency investigation into a parole hearing.
Right. Oh, and that delayed it?
That delayed it, yeah.
Okay. Can I talk about one other thing before we split? Because I had a big argument with
one other thing. As long as you're not going to walk me into some violation.
No, I'm not, because I know you can't talk about Diddy, because per the judge and your daughter's in the case and all the other. By the way, we broke your daughter's pregnancy news.
Yes, I know. Thanks. I heard about that. I heard a lot about that. So
I hope she wasn't pissed.
No. She just figured that's what I do.
Okay. So I had a big argument with somebody about this yesterday. So Donald Trump is trying to get, I would assume, the Supreme Court to say federal district judges, the trial judges in the federal system, should not have the right to stop executive orders, with immigration and other things, that it shouldn't be these federal judges. I disagree with a lot that Donald Trump says. I see his point on this because the idea is you have hundreds and hundreds of federal judges, and whether it's a Republican or Democrat in the Oval Office, the opposition can find some judge in the country, in Iowa or Texas or somewhere, to say it's unconstitutional what he or she is doing, I'll issue an injunction, and it upends the order. And it's just, you can go to any of the 400 or 500 judges and you just find one to say it, and and it just stops everything. And the reality is the Constitution only creates a Supreme Court. It doesn't create any other court, just the Supreme Court. And it's, the three branches of government. The Supreme Court has the ability to check the president. So the argument would be that if the president is going to be stopped based on something being unconstitutional, that should come from the Supreme Court. Even a temporary should come from the Supreme Court and not a lower court, even the Court of Appeals.
So this whole argument also plays into, and you got to put it against or next to or the backdrop of these what are called nationwide injunctions, where
Right.
and both sides have done this, by the way. The
Right.
Republicans would go find a friendly district court judge, get against Biden. They were doing it repeatedly. The Democrats have repeatedly done it. So it's forum shopping, which most judges tell you they hate, but judges a lot of times will get kind of hoodwinked, if you will, and indulge in it. Nationwide injunctions are where the problem starts, but you don't get normally to the US Supreme Court unless you do the district court, circuit court, US Supreme Court. So
Right.
there's got to be, I agree with you, there has to be, the whole system falls apart if you don't have the separation of powers, and somebody's got to be able to check, and it should be the US Supreme Court, but you got to start somewhere, at least for fact finding, if nothing else. And so to my mind, the way to solve this problem is to rein in nationwide injunctions and then maybe fast track district, circuit court, US Supreme Court. Interestingly, the special counsel in prosecuting Donald Trump criminally tried to jump over from the district court to the US Supreme Court in DC, which I thought was interesting. And now we've got all of these kinds of pressure testing of the courts, and I think it's fascinating. We could do a whole show on it.
But that's been done. And you could go to an individual justices. The 9 justices have 9 areas of the country. And you can actually go to the individual justice for emergency relief if they're willing to take it. And that individual justice can rule. And then it goes right to the court. So there's a process for doing it. And, I hear you. And yeah, you could go to the federal district court first. But if they can't issue an injunction, they have no power. They're just saying, well, here's what I think. And then it goes to the Court of Appeals and they say, well, here's what we think. And then it goes to the Supreme Court. So if it's going to go that way and there's no real power on either of the two levels, why not just say the Supreme Court should just take issues of executive order up right from the get-go? And I know it's going to flood their calendar, but for crying out loud, they get the entire summer off. That's an outrage. So maybe they should work more. Well, I'm serious. Who gets off from June to October?
Teachers,
Okay.
teachers and professors.
Yeah, but they're civil servants, man.
In some cases, I know a lot of professors who do pretty well.
But what do you think? What do you think about that? I mean,
I just think that it's never going to happen because the US Supreme Court is not going to. I think it's a more constitutionally based prohibition from original jurisdiction always being in the US Supreme Court for all of these things, and they're never going to rule that. I don't think my feeling always is with judges, one of your most persuasive arguments with a judge is to frame it in terms of judicial efficiency. You don't get very far with most judges when you say, hey, judge, I want you to decide it this way, because then you're going to be inundated with cases. I mean, I've been arguing for years that motions under 12b-6 in the federal court at the district court level are a calendar management tool where judges just end up granting them just so that they can free up their calendar. So I don't get, when you say, I know it's going to open the floodgates, that to me is the death knell for that argument.
Well, I'm not sure that the Supreme Court is going to say that federal judges individually can issue nationwide injunctions on
I
executive
don't think
orders.
so either, but they could say that let yourself work it up. And, and I was thinking about it as you're bringing it up. When you get a judge who's going to rule on whether or not a whole class of people can be dismissed, for instance, speaking of Doge, where is the place where that would have the jurisdiction for
Yeah,
that? So there's
yeah.
going to be jurisdictional arguments.
I do have one other question for you.
Yes.
Your wife told me you don't like even taking vacations, that you're just this workhorse. Why don't you like taking vacations? Doesn't
I,
it just
you want to be, and I know this sounds trite. I love what I do.
I
Just
know,
I do.
but don't you need just to get away and
Uh,
think?
my getaway, I have other ways to get away, and it's not that. I love what I do. How about you, speaking of vacations?
I got to get away. I mean, and I
Yeah,
come
but
up with my,
you're on at a level I don't think people truly understand. You're in bed when most people are just
yeah,
finishing
I live
workday.
like a child.
Yeah.
Um, and
Well,
and
you're a variation on Warren Buffett, who used to say actuarial tables say that 6-year-olds have the greatest longevity, and that so he eats like a 6-year-old. You take that to the next level where you just figure if I go to sleep early like a toddler and wake up like a toddler, I'm going to live the longest.
no, but that's not it. It's just honestly, my day is just so filled with work that I have no time to reflect or think. And the best ideas I come up with when I get away, when I can just like actually have this thinking time. And I don't like sit down and say, okay, let me think of an idea. But when you kind of clear the decks, and you never fully clear the decks, but even for like a week, just to be able to not be on that kind of rigid military-like schedule, ideas come to you. And my best ideas have always come to me. TMZ came to me on vacation. Whether you think it's a
So,
good idea or not, I don't know.
so I have a question, and we'll end with this. Did you just check into solitary confinement, and that's
No, I'm not. This happens to be a bland background, okay?
okay? If
No,
that's a vacation, you need to upgrade your vacation location.
well, it was cheap.
Yeah, apparently 3 meals with a cot. I love it. Harvey,
Okay.
I'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.
Bye bye.